Welcome back to another episode of the Obvious Choice Podcast. My name is Tyler Miller. I run a real estate team here in Blaine called the Tyler Miller Team. And I started this podcast because I feel like I know a lot of pretty awesome people in my life. And, all of them serve that purpose of, okay, if I was thinking about the auto industry, I'm going to call this buddy. If I'm going to think about, youth sports, I'll call some guy to talk about that I know. And then when it comes to my guest today, if I had any questions about being incredibly good looking,
Not the guy.
Not the guy. Face for a podcast. No, I'm just kidding. But no, for my guest today is Brian Scholten. And I have Brian on the podcast for many reasons, but one that I want to make sure we cover today is your investor background, also commercial real estate. So first off, welcome, Mr. Scholten.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Brian literally just got back to Minnesota, was it yesterday?
Yeah, I'll send you the invoice for my flight.
Yeah, I made him fly home just for this. No, it's the day before Thanksgiving when we're recording this, so he came home to see his family, and I like to think he came home to see me as well. But when I knew he was coming back, I was like, hey, I kind of want to hang out, but more importantly, let's get you on the podcast because you got a lot of good things to talk about. So for those of you that don't know Brian, Brian lives in Blaine, he has a house in Blaine. He doesn't live in Blaine anymore. He moved to South Carolina, Charleston, right?
Yep.
Well, Mount
and then
Pleasant,
for the summer in Blaine.
Yep, summer in Blaine. But we both live in the lakes of Blaine. We both have a house on the lake. So I'm trying to remember how we met. Was it through our wives?
Yeah, definitely.
The MOPS group probably.
Yep.
But yeah, so we met through our wives, and then shortly thereafter helped them sell their house, and then kind of just formed a really good friendship. And I consider Brian one of my best friends. And anyways, lots of good things to come from this. But to give everybody just a perspective of who you are, a couple things that come to mind for me when I think of you, Brian, is first and foremost, I just think genuine. You know what I mean? And it's there's not many people out there that are genuine.
I appreciate that.
Sometimes genuinely stupid, but just overall genuine. A man of God, man of faith.
Very much so.
A big family man.
Very much so.
What did you say to me one time? You said investment rich but cash poor.
Very much so. Yeah.
And lo and behold, I feel like that's probably the right way to go. Yeah. But I remember when you first talked to me about that, it was just kind of funny. Gator B comes to mind. That's his new South Carolina name.
My alter ego down there.
Alter ego, Gator B. He's swampy, and there's no turning back now. He's been back for a day, and he's already complaining how cold it is. It's 45 degrees.
It's not warm.
It's balmy.
Not warm here.
It's balmy for Minnesota. I'm sweating in this hoodie right now. And honestly, just always down to have a good time. Always really good at having good discussions about bigger picture things, life, business, stuff like that, but with zero judgment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just you're really good about keeping the conversation going without projecting your overarching viewpoints, what kind of would halt the conversation. So I always appreciate that about you. And I like to think he made the right choice in real estate going commercial versus my residential choice with more math versus emotion. So I'm always jealous about that.
It wasn't easy.
No. Yeah.
But yeah.
And then, has a wife who is way better than us.
Yeah, agree.
Everybody likes Alicia. Some people like Brian, just like me.
They're 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50. So yeah, that's just a little, and then last thing I would say is just really good investor mind. Somebody that really understands passive income and is super passionate about leaving a legacy for their family and changing their lives through investing in real estate. So I don't know what else there is. I probably missed a ton, but that kind of sums up Brian. Oh, and you you're from South Dakota, right?
Yep.
So you'll eat beef tartare.
Yeah,
Just-
tiger meat.
Just tiger meat, just raw chunks of cow. Just,
Yeah, but not from like the grocery store. People get that confused.
No.
That's like there's 1,000 cows and probably 1 million illnesses in there.
Right.
So it's got to be like when you've tested the cow, you butcher the cow, and it's just one cow that you're eating
Yep.
tartare.
Yep.
But yeah.
He's a hick, but he's also Gator B. So it's confusing. We don't know what he is at this point. It's morphing. But anyways, so that's what I think about when I think of you. But why don't you just really quick give us a little background before we get into the commercial investment side of things? Just a little background on just, anything that we should know about you that I didn't cover briefly, and then maybe how you stumbled upon commercial real estate.
Yeah. Very quickly, my dad owned duplexes in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where I was from. I didn't learn a whole lot other than like the maintenance of them growing up. And then school at University of St. Thomas did their ROTC program.
Boo.
And,
Not the ROTC part, sorry. I went to,
come on now.
I'm a patriot.
Yeah.
I just am also a Johnny, so, suck it, Tommies.
Yeah. Did the ROTC program. And then Alicia and I got married. We moved over to Italy for 3 years when I was in the military. And then 2 years in Florida. And then moved back, separated from the military, moved back to Minnesota in 2014. Took a job downtown in one of the big office towers. Was there for 3 months and just despised my life sitting in front of a computer. And I was just like, there's got to be more. There's got to be. I can't do this. So I decided, kind of just from a very world view, was like, you make more money when you sell expensive things. And so I'm like, what's the most expensive thing out there? And I'm looking around and I'm like, oh, it's big buildings. Okay. It can't be that hard to sell a big building, right?
Yeah. Anyone could do it.
Yeah, it's a little more challenging than I gave, credence to at the time. But I got in with a small apartment brokerage firm in 2014, NAI Everest, and Gina Dingman was super welcoming, helped me through. But I knew within the first year I was like, I'm not an apartment guy.
Yeah.
And for the investors out there that are listening that are apartment owners, I don't know how you do it. It's just chaos and mess and everything. And then I got a listing for a warehouse building down in Eagan, and the guy who ended up making the offer and buying the building was Rafiq Moore, who's a principal at Caspian Group. And I had so much fun working with him. He's like, man, this is easy. It's 4 walls and a roof. Like, it's meat and potatoes stupid. I was like, I'm from South Dakota. I'm meat and potatoes stupid. Like, I can handle that.
Sums Brian up pretty easily right there, pretty perfectly.
So he sat me down in a half-hour lunch. He bought me lunch, and in a half-hour lunch explained to me, like, exactly how he invests. And he had kind of gone through the 2009 crash, lost everything, like learned a ton of lessons. And so just kind of soaking in that knowledge of like, what mistakes did you make? How do you learn from that? How do you change what you're doing now? And legitimately in a half hour, he changed my life. And so I was like, hey, can I come do this like with you, for you? I'm like, you don't have to pay me anything. I'll learn, I promise. And January 1 of 2016, I started with him at Caspian Group, and then we've just been slowly building. And now he's, I'm still with Caspian Group. He's still with Caspian Group, but he's leading up Break Commercial, which is the investment arm. And then I'm more so kind of doing my own investment, like with partners, smaller, not syndicating, but just like a couple buddies generally. You being one of them in a couple of deals.
We just closed on one, was it yesterday? 2 days ago?
Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
A big building in Northtown.
Yep.
Pretty incredible how that all played out. You
Yeah.
know, and I don't know, we can maybe get in the details a little bit on that.
Yeah,
if you want.
I can do a back of the napkin on it to show
But
why it was good.
like that, when Brian broke that down to me, like this building had been sitting vacant for 8 years, or part of it had been sitting vacant for like 8 years or something like that. And like, back a napkin, you just like solved an 8-year problem.
Yeah.
And then
we had some help, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, pretty incredible because I know a lot of people, I've talked to people who have said like, oh yeah, we've looked into that. We've done a research on that particular building, and like nobody could really put it together.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show like, you even though it's meat and potatoes, stupid, like you got something up there that's working for you, buddy. So and like, so 2016 you jump in with Caspian, Caspian Group.
Yep.
Right. And then I know, you it was a slow build.
Yeah.
Right. It was a little bit of time before I think you like pulled the trigger on your own.
Yeah, 2018. So I brokered kind of exclusively for Rafiq in 16, 17. And then 18, I sold a building to a guy, and I'm like, I know there's value here. I know how to do this. I know how to get it leased. I know. So I had to like beg him to buy this building. And then he even tried to back out. And I was like, please. And it was a decent sized fee for me back when I had like $0 to my name and was kind of building a career. So it was a big deal from that standpoint, but just from I can't let this one get away because I know how good of a deal it is for you.
Right.
And it was a building in Brooklyn Park. He ended up buying it. I put a tenant in, 22,000 square foot tenant in within 30 days. And then 14 months later, so we basically let that tenant vest for a year. 14 months later, I turned around and sold it for $1.5 million more than he paid for it. He had put a total of, I think, $70,000 into the building. So he bought it at 3.2, sold it at 4.7, fully stabilized. And I don't want to say he did none of the work, but he like hung the sheetrock, I think, and mudded and taped or something. A partition wall that we had to build was all. And I found the tenant, found the opportunity, found the tenant, and then found the buyer. And I was just like, I just made $1.5 million for this guy, and I did 90-ish% of the work, if not more. And I was incredibly happy for him. Obviously, it helped me out financially too. But it was more of a, okay, I think I got this. Like, I think I understand. And so then I just started buying stuff, partnering with people. Everything I have partners in.
Right.
Nothing's by myself. And so I started with small partnerships or small percentages, and then just kind of scaled it from there. But it was that first deal that I wasn't a partner. I'm like, man, if I'd even worked a 10% equity stake in that's an extra $150K, or whatever. And just like, oh my gosh, did a lot of work for, and it could not have happened to a better guy. So I'm so happy that investor, it worked out for him as well as it did. Know his family, love his family, but I was just like, man.
Well, you kind of saw what was possible, right? Like up until then, it was all like you were told it's possible, but you never like actually made it happen.
Yeah.
And once you do, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Like
when you can dunk, you're like, oh, I can dunk now.
Yeah.
Like I get
it.
For
sure. Yeah. And same thing with me. Like when we did our first rental property, and it was just like, oh. And then we were able to buy a second one from the equity from that first one. And I'm like, oh. Like, you're just like, oh my gosh, what? Yeah, I need to do this all the time.
Yeah.
And then like I don't remember the whole thing, but I do remember with your backstory, like the building part, there was definitely like a moment in time where it was like, if this one doesn't work out, like I'm out of money. Like I remember, I remember you were like behind on payments. Like, you know what I mean?
Like it was rough sledding. And so I'm just like, okay, X $1 million building gives me X amount of money. And it was building that through 2016, 17, 18. I'd make enough money, pay off the credit card debt. There was a time where Alicia and I think where it was just shy of $100,000 in credit card debt that we had, that I was like financing this real estate, all my expenses for stuff and just kind of like groceries, food on the table, whatever.
Yeah.
And so we were, to a point where like I didn't have any more money on the credit cards. Like we were pretty much at our wit's end. We had a hailstorm that come through Blaine that helped, but I knew, because I had, deals kind of lined up, we're waiting for those to close and get paid out. And it was an incredibly stressful time, because every time I felt like I was sort of catching up, I was like, oh, I got all my credit cards paid off. And then the tax bill came, and that was like $65,000 in taxes, back taxes that I owed. Like, oh my gosh. So now I got to make 65,000 just to pay that. And then I'm going to get taxed on that 65,000. So there's additional. So it just felt like I was behind the 8 ball for a very long time. And God bless my wife. I was just like, don't ever look at anything financial related. I'm like, just please do not look at anything. Just if there's ever an envelope, just hand it to me. That way you can live your life in peace. And to her credit, she did, and she trusted me to make it happen, and she was working to help us out too.
Don't bury the lead on that. Your wife has built quite a amazing business herself.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean. And I don't know if that was like 100% solidified at that point.
Yeah, she started in 14, kind of building that.
She coaches.
Yep.
Fitness coach and makes decent passive income as well.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, like this last year when the market shifted and interest rates went to 6%, and all of a sudden, like, nobody wanted to buy any real estate or even like look at a realtor.
Yeah.
Ashley was at that time doing our finances.
Yeah.
And she still is, but the whole like transferring money, looking at the bank accounts was really stressing her out.
Yeah.
There were some months where $40K was due for expenses for the team, and we made no money that month. And it was just like, well, there goes our savings account. You know what I mean? So I can relate where it's just like, yeah, honey, just don't look anymore. Yeah. Like, just trust me. Yeah. We're going to get through this.
Yeah.
It's going to suck for a little bit, but I have a plan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let us fail, but like it does affect people with that, especially that they don't really know what's happening. You know what I mean? Like you can see the end picture.
I saw the light at the end of the tunnel, whereas if Alicia would have been looking, I mean, she couldn't. She didn't know what I do per se, right?
Yeah.
Or the timing of everything. She didn't know, okay, this deal could close then, or, and is going to bring this much. And so, it was, I was just like, I need you in ignorance is bliss in this facet of our life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and so to fast forward now, just so everybody is aware, how many buildings do you currently have ownership in?
So a couple of I'll call them properties, because a couple of the properties have like multiple
properties
buildings on site. But we just bought one, and we're selling one in a couple of weeks. I think that will put us at 18, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have another one that's like, I'm taking operational control over, and I don't know if we have time to dive into that one, but that one's going to be a master lease. So I'm not buying it, but I'm master leasing it from the current owners who are running it terribly. We'll get the rent.
You make it sound dirty. You're master leasing? What are you doing in your bedroom there, Brian?
Master leasing. Leave me alone.
No, don't come in. I'm master leasing.
Grow up.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. We're children.
So
so 18 properties.
Yes, I believe. Yep.
And now I want to get into like the way that you've like structured a lot, what I think is a lot of your business model. And so I'll ask this question leading into it. Like out of the 18, how many did you actually put money into?
So a lot of them I left some or all of my fee.
Your fee.
Right. I did the brokerage for it.
Yeah. So you're talking about your real estate commission.
Yep. And then left in as I take more operational control of the properties, and I'm bringing the deals, and I'm seeing how well they cash flow. It's kind of like I'm able to ask for more, right? Like bigger equity stakes, without having to put much, if any, cash in, because ultimately I'm the guy who's going. It's like a recent example in Blaine. We will have a basis of the property at $4.5 million. It appraised at closing for $5.5 million. So just because I brought a deal that's $1 million equity positive already, you can kind of say, well, I don't need to bring, because I'm allowing you to share in. Yeah. I don't want to say a free $1 million, because it's not that simple, but essentially you have an appraisal today, right now, that property could sell for $5.5 million, and your cost in it is $4.5. So you can just say, if you want in, here's how it's going to be structured or what have you.
Yeah, and so what I was getting at there is like, in in the real estate world, especially, like if you're the one that has the deal, if you found it and you did the dirty work to make it happen, like you've created value right there. You shouldn't have to put anything in because not that you would do this. You want to work with your partners, but if that one partner doesn't want it, you're going to go to somebody else that's willing to take, hey, do you want 8 or 10% on your money?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people are going to raise their hand, and that's with you not putting any money in sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's great, and I was coming back from the Elk River building that we bought, where you structured it that way, where you found it and you brought it to me because I was after a 4-hour conversation on your porch in South Carolina after a karaoke bar and some fun times, I kept on saying, like, just bring me something, I just want to do something with you. It doesn't even matter what it is. I just want to do business with you. And she brought it to me and it was like, hey, here's how it's going to look. Here's what we think we could do with it. If for your buy-in, you'll have this much ownership, and then we'll have the rest. And like, I was just the money guy in that situation.
It's in a sense.
And at 0 point in time, I'd be like, well, Brian, you just put some money in. Like, I was grateful for the opportunity, right? Like you said, it's not free money, but it's, hey, it's going to probably work out. Do you want in on this or not? Otherwise I'll go to somebody else. Which, and you never said that to me, but I understand.
We were gonna get the deal done one way or the other, and the reason that one for you in particular is like, if I'm partnering with somebody for the first time, it's always, I want it to be the least risk possible because it's someone's first new venture, right? Yep. And so if I can go, we're talking about $500,000 commercial property, which is like in today's world, $100,000 house.
Yeah, you can't find them.
Like they don't exist, and they're so small. It's so, the numbers are so small relative to other stuff that even when you're talking, the returns on the money, it's like the numbers are so small where that property's just never gonna fail, right? Yeah. If you start buying a $4 million deal, a $4 million building, and you're off, and it's now only worth $3.5, $500,000, you're talking. It's only a smaller-ish percentage of the property value, but it's still a $500,000 swing, right? Yeah. If you're off on Elk River and you buy it for $500,000, it's only worth $450,000. I can even be like, I'm just going to eat the difference. I don't want you the first-time investor, to be losing that money, right? And obviously, this one we believe in substantial upside, but even when you're talking about worst case scenario, you're talking about such small numbers that like even the worst case scenario is, it shouldn't ruin something. Yeah, it's extremely palatable. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and so what I was saying is, I was driving back from that building. I went and, after I bought it, I finally went and looked at it. Didn't know what I was buying other than, well, it's got a laundromat, it's got a tattoo parlor, and it's got a, we call it a car detailing place. Who knows what it actually is? But that's all I knew.
It's not that.
It's not that. Did AJ tell you that when we went in there? So we went and like knocked on, and we walked in the car detailing place, and we walk in and like, I mean, the front desk area, just a mess, like just stuff everywhere, you know? And it's like dark. There's no lights on, but we could like hear somebody working on a car. And like, we kind of like peek around the corner, and all you see is this little tiny flashlight on the guy's head. And he must have been like working on some detailing or something, I think, or some auto body stuff. Apparently, that helps if you just have one light on or something. But it was just weird. I was expecting to walk in and it's like a client-facing car detailing place. No, it's like you don't bring people there. Like you drop your car off and you leave the key like outside the door and you leave. Yeah. But yeah, very bizarre. But anyways, I was driving back, and I happened to be talking to my team member Max, because he grew up in that Elk River area, and he's like, I know right where that is. It's awesome. And I started filling him in on, because he's a very ambitious 20-year-old. Yeah, he's 20.
Absolutely.
And he's like, man, like, because I told him the structure of the deal, basically how, probably going to make roughly 10% on my money. Plus, if we put a new tenant in there, we think we can make a good amount of money on the sale or a cash out refinance or whatever, right? Yep. And he was like, man, that sounds like incredible. Like, how do you even start doing that? Like, I don't have the money for that. Yeah. And I was like, here's the best part, man. The guy I did it with, didn't need any money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He went and found the building,
Yep.
talked and worked out the deal with the owner, and was able to bring it to an investor or a money guy that he wanted to partner with. And now he has a, 0.5% or 50% ownership in a building that he didn't put any money into.
Yep.
And his mind was just blown. Like, he was just like, wait, that's possible?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, who would do that? Wouldn't people be upset? I'm like, Max, if you brought me a building where I can make 10% of my money plus 6 figures after we sell it in a couple of years,
Yeah.
I'll give you my money right now.
And you don't even have to. So, like, the beauty of it is you don't have to. I know you want to learn the commercial stuff and understand the tenant relations and understand the leasing and understand how that drives value. But essentially, if someone's just the money guy, they don't have to deal with that. Like, as long as you trust the person who is doing that, right? It's kind of a set it and forget it. I get my return, and if the value of the property grows and we sell it, I'll get my share of the equity. Like, somebody else is managing. It's kind of like giving your money to a financial advisor or whatever to place in stocks or mutual funds or whatever. You're not the one calling the shots, but you're trusting that they know what they're doing.
Yep.
Beauty of commercial real estate is it's very easy to what I call force appreciation.
Yeah.
So rents are below market. You buy the property based on the value of those lower rents. And then you're saying, I'm going to bring the rents to what they should be in this market. And without doing anything other than signing new leases at market rents, you've shot up the value of the property. Right.
And I know we talked about this multiple times. I think I can't remember when the last time was, but I remember because in the residential world, I'm not trying to say commercial people are scummy. That's not what I'm getting at. But in the residential world, it's like, you're supposed to advise people, trying to take advantage of people, whatever. It happens, especially like on the wholesaling and investment side.
Yep.
But it's just not what I was ever like taught. So if I could go into someone's house and like buy it for less, every fiber in my being is like, yeah, but like tell them what it's worth right now for them to sell it, right?
Yep.
And I remember talking to you about this, and I'm like, yeah, but isn't it like weird going into these buildings and they're under rented, and then
I tell them.
I know you do, but what I was saying is you explained it really well. Like, most times these guys don't want to go and raise the rents and themselves anyways, because they've had these people in there for 10 years, and they're like, yeah, they're under rented. So even if I could go in and find a new tenant or do all this bullshit, I don't want to do it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They're more like an absentee owner. And so it's not really taking advantage of them. It's paying them out what they want to just be done.
Exactly.
Right? Versus like, well, let me go get everything perfect and then sell it.
Yeah.
It's just
the comparable approach in the residential would be talking to a homeowner and saying, if you spend $30,000 or $40,000 on XYZ, it is likely that your house would sell for $100,000 more. And sometimes the owner's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait the time. I don't have the money. I don't want to deal with the headache of all of that. So it's that same process of transparency. Like this, the gentleman we bought the building from, tell him your rents are below market. You could be at $600,000 for value instead of $500,000. And he just like, I don't want to raise the rents. I'm like, well, it won't appraise for $600,000. It can't based on the rents that you have. So, you're just fully transparent with them, and they're ultimately like, well, if you make it easy and I don't have to do anything, I'm happy with the $500,000. You go, okay, I'll do the work.
Yeah, and there's a residential realtor by the name of Chris Lindahl, in case anybody hasn't heard that name before. He's on a billboard.
Never heard of him.
Like 50. But he kind of showed that there is a huge market, not a huge market, there's a market for the convenience factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, hey, I'll give you a cash offer, or Zillow will, or whatever. It's going to be well below the market value, but you can close whenever the hell you want. You don't have to do anything to the house.
Yep.
And,
people like this.
It's cash, right? And so it's a guaranteed close, and they did a ton of those. You know what I mean? So it's like there's obviously people out there, and I bet there's more people like that in the commercial world when it's not their emotional home that they've raised their kids in, right? Like when it's just a building that makes you money.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And
But
and a lot of those guys, I don't want to say $100,000 doesn't mean anything, but they're going the brain damage that they feel like it would be, because maybe they got it inherited and they don't even know how to have lease discussions with tenants. Maybe they're afraid of 6 months of vacancy, and then they're looking at it and they're, it's like, I would be afraid to do brain surgery, right?
Right.
If I was forced to do it and someone came and offered me money to get out of doing it, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm taking it and running, because I don't even know what I'm doing.
Unless
right?
it's your brain, it's probably not that complicated.
It's not that. They have a 1 or 2 wires.
Yeah.
But you don't know the reasons why they either do or don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Take the higher value. But at the end of the day, when you're just very transparent about it, that builds trust with them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, sometimes you get an even sweeter deal than what you thought, just because they're like, thank you for being honest about how you go about your business. So, yeah.
I think if I was a listener, I would want to know, or a watcher, because there's cameras, whoever's watching us or listening, I'd want to know, like, okay, just let's go through the process, like just really basic.
Yep.
One, like, how are you identifying the properties? Like, how are you finding them?
It comes 100 different ways. It started with essentially doing kind of the residential investment. I want the worst house in the best neighborhood kind of thing. And I was just looking at, I want warehouses where it's not looking like the weeds are getting pulled. It's not looking like the, lots are getting plowed. They're not taking care of it, whatever it is.
Undervalued.
Yeah.
You know?
And they're just not being loved or cared for. And
right.
so you're like, okay, the guy who owns it clearly doesn't care. He's obviously not out to maximize the value of this property, because he wouldn't be doing this if he was. And so let me find out. So it was the whole driving for dollars. And then it comes, once you start doing one or a couple, then you can kind of start to spot opportunities a little easier. Sometimes the building's in great shape, but the rents are way below market. So then you're like, that's where the value add is. We started sending letters out to, when we'd buy something, we'd send letters out in the local area and say, hey, this is what we bought, this is the price we paid, and kind of give an idea. Is almost like a state of the market, right?
Yeah.
It was only one transaction, but a guy can look at it and go, or gal can look at it and say, all right, he bought this building that's this big for this much per foot, and I have a building that's this big, and so his value at this much per foot works out to be this. And sometimes they call me and I say, yeah, I only paid that because the rents were here, or it didn't need a new roof, or whatever, right?
I think we may have solved your roof issue, by the way.
Yeah?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, that call.
Yeah?
Really good. Like, I recorded. I'll send you the recording. It seems pretty incredible.
All
so I'm excited that maybe I've added some value to it already.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's like, I'm not going to get into it on the podcast, because it's like kind of like a hidden secret that not a lot of people have figured out. Yeah. So, yeah. You need to hook up with that guy.
That would be awesome, because we have a number of roofs
I know.
We need to look at. So, they come a bunch of different ways, and sometimes it's just network, right? People know you buy commercial real estate, and they don't know what commercial real estate even means, and I don't really know. Like, someone, you'll get calls, do you buy apartments? I'm like, no, not a chance, right? I'm not. But then every once in a while,
why don't you want to buy apartments? Because I feel like that's usually the end game for a lot of people.
This is sort of religious in basis more than anything. But so I hated dealing with apartment owners, right? I was very tainted, because I was only selling like the lowest common denominator apartments, like the worst of the worst in Minneapolis. And so you'd see these good people, some of them trying hard, some of them not trying hard, like the tenants. And then you're always like banging on their door saying, hey, we're showing your apartment. And they're, generally not well kept. And then you have these owners that come in and they're like, all right, well, we can jack these guys' rents up $300 a month and increase. And I'm like, it's a person's home, and man, they don't even have, $50 to get food in the refrigerator. So that means they're home. Like, it was just a morally, and not to like say apartment owners are bad people. A lot of my partners also own apartments, and treat their tenants really, really well and what have you. But just my experience,
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You have the ability to cause people to be homeless.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, the Bible says shelter the homeless. It does not say, force people to homeless. And so you know, I kind of, my thought process is, if you're a believer, I don't want to show up one day and Jesus is like, hey, so how'd you do sheltering the homeless? And I'm like, oh yeah, I evicted like 1,000 people over my life and made them homeless. How's that for? So,
but I made lots of money.
Yeah, but I made lots of money that's now back on earth, and you can't do, you know, whatever. So, not to get too high and mighty, but it just like, I couldn't stomach that. Whereas in the, you know, people ask, well, how can you raise rents in business owners? I'm like, well, in a business, you need to charge or make a profit margin that makes your business a viable business. And right. And businesses come and go all the time. The JCPenney's of the world were very profitable when that was a profitable business model. You didn't adapt and you die. Right. So a business that's coming in, they're like, well, I only make X, Y, Z on this business. And I'm like, well, how have you changed that? Maybe a haircut doesn't cost $4 a haircut anymore. Like, if you're not charging market rate for a haircut, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you're giving that person, every time you charge $5 instead of $25 for a haircut, you're giving that person $20 out of your pocket, because the market for that is $25. And so you have that conversation. If a business, if the money doesn't work for their business, I'm like, well, what are you doing? Spinning your wheels to not, nobody wants to work and not earn money.
You're almost like helping them realize like this isn't.
That's the slippery slope. Like, I don't want to say you're helping them, but hopefully you're like illuminating some of the flaws in the business model of like, yeah, I know you want to keep your prices cheap. And to a point, you could say a neck shave will remain at $1, right? But the haircut is going to be $25.
Yeah.
You know, you can do little things to say, hey, we're trying to keep, it's like the gas stations that still have coffee for 10 cents or whatever it is, right? You have this one thing to say, to our core, we want to be about saving you money, but at the end of the day, the cost of business is the cost of business.
Right.
So,
and to finalize your point, I think what you were alluding to is you're not making these people homeless; they have a home.
Yeah,
right.
It's
at
different.
The
end of the day. Yeah, and generally, there's other places out there they can go and run their business at the same, because you're going to find dilapidated buildings with absent owners, and they're like, sure, I'll take $200 for 10,000 square feet. You know,
right?
But
yeah. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because when you told that to me, I've always thought about that. I'm like, that's really cool that you can kind of tie in what you're doing into the Bible a little bit. You know what I mean? Like you're, because I think a lot of people, when they get in the investment world, it's like, I'm going to buy 10 single families, trade it up to fourplexes, and trade it up to apartments. And, and like, that's usually the end game, the apartments / maybe a couple trailer parks, hotel. I don't know what you do after that, but like, it's like, you're just choosing to go a route where you can probably still do very, very well, but you're not going to have to mess with people's their home life. You know what I mean?
And that's the tricky part, is like, with one person evicting one person, you're only affecting that one person, but you're dramatically affecting them. If you move a business out, that business might have 10 employees, right? And so now you have to weigh all of that.
Right. Yeah. So you identify the property.
Yep.
Whether you're driving for dollars, sending letters. Now a lot of people are bringing you deals because you're known as somebody who can solve some issues, right? And be creative. I mean, you already went down to South Carolina and bought how many? Two?
Two properties.
2 properties.
4 buildings, and then another property should be coming online here.
It's just, it's been 3 months. Yeah. Just got your slacking. Should have at least 3. I mean, buy one every month. What are we doing here? But like, I mean, it's obviously something that you can easily do in your head, back of the napkin type stuff now. So like, if somebody's considering purchasing, let's just say an industrial building, like what you do, your bread and butter, what are the basic couple things that they just need to know and that they need to align in order for it to like make any sense?
From a financial standpoint?
Yeah, like what is a for sure like thumbs up yes for you? You know, after you look at it, like what are you looking at, and then what is it like absolutely not, wouldn't touch us with a 10-foot pole?
Yeah, so
just a couple things.
Yeah, how Rafiq originally described it to me is his goal is to be at 70% of the as complete value, or like fully stabilized. What in that, to not go off in the weeds, but you have to know what the rental market is. Excuse me. You You have to know what the rental market is to know what that stabilized value is,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you are, it is a deal if your price, your purchase price plus the improvement money that you're going to spend on the property is at or below 70% of that stabilized value, right?
Stabilized value
Meaning when it's fully leased and all the deferred maintenance is taken care of,
fully leased at the right rent.
at market rate, fully leased at market rate with no deferred maintenance items outstanding, not a $250,000 roof that you have to do, not $100,000 parking lot, whatever. You have to be at or below 70%. Now that is extraordinarily difficult in today's world to find that opportunity. So I don't want to say that spread has gotten tighter and tighter, but that's kind of the guiding philosophy. The closer you can get to that benchmark, the easier it is to say, I don't really care where it's located or what it is. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
right?
That's going to make some money.
Yeah, that's going to make some money and not be too big of a hassle to manage or lease or what have you. My bigger thing that I've come to realize over the past few years is I like functional flexibility in my properties, and that comes with higher ceilings, that comes with more parking, bigger land area, how flexible is the zoning, right? Because I've dealt with commercial properties just in brokerage where like you look at the permitted uses and it's like 2 items long.
Right.
And when you're trying to lease it and you have 10 inquiries and not a single one of them is one of those permitted uses you're hosed.
Yeah.
So those are important things to consider. It's not all just number based, but functional flexibility, zoning, location, proximity, ingress, egress, access, clear height, all of those things that kind of weigh into, yes, this is worth doing.
So you obviously need like the rent roll, I think it's called, right? And like this is usually all stuff that you get during that due diligence period, right?
Yep.
So they'll send you the rent roll so you can check rents, and then that's where that's the part where I feel like you for sure need to have someone who knows what the hell they're doing, because you can look real quick and be like, that's either below or like above market rate.
Yep.
And know if there's any room for improvement, right?
Yep, exactly.
So that's kind of like one of the more important pieces you need, rent roll.
Rent roll is the number one most important thing. The income or the expense summary is pretty important too, depending on how your leases are structured. Are you as the landlord required to pay for the taxes, the insurance, or is that all pass-through charges to tenants? How are the leases written? So that's definitely an important part of the equation too.
And the rent rolls also have like when the leases are expiring.
Generally,
usually,
we'll say, yeah,
because that's also good information too. Like, maybe they're undervalued, but they're tied up for 5 years.
Yeah,
it's like, that sucks.
Yeah, I can't do anything for you, seller, because I can't get you the price that you want. It'll never appraise. You have long term on your lease and you're below market rent. So, unless there's some very creative way to structure a deal that makes sense for them, it doesn't work. But like one of the buildings down in Charleston, it was wildly under market, like half of market. Without even doing anything to the property, I would have was able to kind of double rents, and I had enough term, so I had 6 months on pretty much all the leases. So enough term to like vet out and make sure I kept the tenants I wanted to keep and got rid of the bad ones or whatever. But it wasn't, and it wasn't like they could all just be like, oh, a new owner, 30 days, and I'm piecing out, right? So if everyone's month to month, you could buy it. In 30 days, you could be fully vacant.
Yeah.
That's a tough pill to swallow. So that was a nice sweet spot where I had enough term on the leases at way below market rents where I knew even if everybody left, I had 6 months of lease up time to try and find new tenants to get in there. And yeah, everybody wanted to stay. I moved 3 of the tenants out, 2 because they were just bad fits on the property, and the other one paid rent, but I don't want a car guy mixed with retail. It just didn't work.
So let's role play.
Okay.
Let's say I'm the car guy.
Yep.
How do you have that conversation? Do you like go right, do you go face to face with them?
Yeah, 100%.
Walk in and just, what do you say? Say I'm the car guy, I'm working on a car, I got the flashlight on my head,
Yeah. So, Brian, new owner, nice to meet you.
Are you Gator B? I've heard the tall tales about Gator B. They got a South accent down there.
No, he was, so walk in and I say, so I understand you're here in the suite. You happy, you like it, all that? And it's, yeah, and it's this, whatever. And then I say, well, the auto, your use doesn't really fit with the general retail vibe that we have here. So I know your lease is through the end of December, but I'm not going to be renewing your lease. I can't have you here.
What do you mean? I've been here for 5 years, Gator B.
I know you have. And I'm happy you were able to make a business here. And maybe we can find a building, down the road or in the nearby, or maybe it's an opportunity to find a new location closer to home, whatever it is. I will help you if you want me to help you. I will do my best to help you find a new spot. But at the end of the day, I can't have you here, and I won't be renewing your lease. So I am happy to have you here while you're under lease. Like, I can't do anything about that. And frankly, you're a great guy. I'm glad you can continue to serve your customers. But yeah, at the end of your lease, we just can't have you renewing here.
Gator B, I like the way you talk. I got lost in your dreamy eyes, and, you can help me find a new building.
I will not be seeing you again.
I have the police outside. Please take him away.
Please take him away.
He gives me some weird, creepy vibes. Yeah, you've done that a few times. You can tell. And that's it's perfect. But I think that those are those intimidating things for people. It's like not only, okay, I got to go find this building. I got to come up with money most times they think, because they just don't know that there's other ways to do it. And then, oh gosh, there's people that are under lease. God, I got to go have hard conversations with these people. And like, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go invest in the stock market and call it a day.
Yep.
And so.
And that's a great way to do it. Like, if that's your thing, I feel I don't want to say controllability of real estate. There's still always an element that you cannot control. There's things outside your control. But the better you get at those conversations, the easier they are to have, no matter what the conversation is. And so you generally kind of can have pretty good control over your investment, right? You invest in any company, even the long-standing ones, just stocks or whatever. You don't know if the guy's like doing bad books and then an Enron bombshell is going to happen and then poof, right? You everything's gone. So not to say that there isn't risk in real estate, but it's just, it feels like when you're the one operating it, that operational control gives you it's a lot easier to sleep at night knowing that you're largely in control of that.
Well, because it is math. It's a math equation. Most times. There's some factors, right?
Yeah, there's non-math components, but yes.
But yeah, it's like if it makes sense on paper, like it's more than likely going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just got to go execute the plan. Talk about, so the last thing I think with commercial that I think is just good to know, like, because you hear it in residential all the time, but like you've done some wholesaling too, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I remember you telling me this one time, and you were, just rubbing it in, but in like a really funny way. But I can't remember exactly what you said, but basically you sent me a text, and you're like, just sold a piece of paper for, I don't know, it was a lot of money, whatever it was.
Yeah.
It was 6 figures for sure. I don't remember the exact amount, but, and like, again, like, I know what wholesaling is, but never have had any experience with it. Didn't really put 2 and 2 together at all at the time of what you were talking about. And I was just like, what the fuck? How is this? How is this guy doing this stuff? I'm like, it was just incredible. And basically, like, you can tell the story better than I can, but I know you came across a building. You knew it was a hell of a deal. Right?
Yep.
You knew that either you're buying it.
Yep.
That was plan B. But plan A was like, I'm just going to bring this to like 10 people, and if first person doesn't want it, go to the second one. Second one doesn't want it, go to the third one, and just go down the line.
Yep.
And worst case scenario, you'd buy it, but it'd still make good money.
Yeah, so it was gonna make a decent return, leased at market or what have you. And the building, this one was brokered by somebody. So the seller had a commercial guy on his side, so I didn't care how cheap of a deal I got. I'm like, hey, you trusted that person, your best interest to list and sell that property for you. So it's not my job to look out for that owner's best interest when he has
No.
another paid professional. Right?
Was this person inexperienced in commercial?
No, experienced enough. I just think that, and it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. There were extenuating circumstances with the property. The building owner had the business in there, wanted some time to like figure out what he was going to do with his business. And so I had to kind of get creative on the lease structure to make sure I wasn't losing money if I was going to be buying it, and blah, blah, blah. So at the end of the day, there was enough concessions from the seller where I said, all right, there's a few $100,000 spread here between like what this thing is worth cleaned up and put on the market, sold as a vacant owner user building. I know that value because I sold a building right across a parking lot that was the exact same building for a value, right? And there was multiple parties interested. So I'm sitting here going, I know the value of this building and I know what I have it under contract for. So I'm like, there's going to be somebody out there. I don't even have to buy this building. Somebody out there is going to say, I can buy this property even if I put, let's say the spread was $500,000 between the building that sold and the one that I have under contract. They're going to look at me and say, well, you can't make $250,000. And again, this is me and all my partners together. You guys can't make $250,000 without doing anything. And I'm like, why? We're giving you a $250,000 discount on one that's property should sell for and has sold for. Like there was a buyer who paid $250,000 more than what you're paying, even after you give me. So just because I found a really spread, heavy deal.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not requiring anybody to buy it, right? Nobody has to, because it still makes money even if I lease it up. And so that was kind of I would say a grand slam opportunity because the building made money if I leased it up.
Yeah.
It made enough money where there wasn't a risk. Where wholesalers, a lot of wholesalers get into trouble is they tie something up and they have no intention nor ability to close it.
To buy it.
Right.
Yep.
Like they won't, and then they pull out and they just say, oh no, I couldn't find some sucker to pay me more for it or whatever. And so then they just back out. And that was one of the things Rafiq taught me kind of in the 6 months or whatever. He's like, if you ever put a property under contract, you better know how and with whom you're going to, like, you better have a closing strategy.
Right.
Like, we are not going to tie it up. No, I couldn't find somebody to flip it to back out.
Get that bad reputation.
Yeah. You do it once, you're done. So yeah, it was, that worked because the property is going to work leased, and it worked wholesaling it, and was a good one.
Yeah. There's all sorts of options. So anybody out there that has more questions for Brian regarding commercial investing, for myself, but residential investing or commercial, I know a little bit now. I don't know as much as Brian, but just feel free to reach out. Like, we're open books, happy to help, and got lots of different resources to help you guys. So it's a great opportunity to start building that passive income and that wake up money, so that one day you don't have to go to work and miss out on everything else. And it's amazing to see you, Brian, that you practice what you preach too. You know what I mean? Like, you're doing it, and then you're also doing it in life as well. Like, you're not just like saying, well, this could change my life or this could change your life if you do this. Yeah. Like, you're doing that. You've changed your life multiple times. You guys travel frequently, multiple times a year. I think, was it last year, 2 years ago, you went somewhere for like a month. Yeah. I can't remember where it was.
We went to Hawaii earlier this year in the wintertime. Yeah. We escaped Minnesota, and then we just ended up moving from Minnesota.
Yeah. You just escaped entirely. But, like, you're able to do that because of what you've created. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I think just recanting that tale and letting people know early on, like, hey, there was a time where it was scary. Oh, man. It was very stressful, but that's going to happen with anything that could change your life. Nothing. It's not easy. You know what I mean? So, like, if you're nervous and you're just not sure where to start, like, just know Brian was at that exact same spot. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then he met a guy named Rafiq. Yeah. And Rafiq in 30 minutes told this dumbass over here how to do it, and figured it out. And now he has a house in Blaine on a lake. He's got a house in not Charleston, Mount Pleasant. He has a house in Florida.
Yeah, with partners, with some of my commercial partners. Yeah.
Right.
We went down to North Captiva.
North Captiva. Yep.
And then I called Jim and I was like, you want to buy a house with me?
Yeah.
And he's like, if it's real estate and you think it's a good deal, I trust you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you're how old?
36.
36. So you don't have to, you don't have to have all this money laying around and stuff to get started. There's other ways that you yourself could bring value to a commercial deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you just gotta start. But let's transition because our wives are going to be here to probably pick us up in 40 minutes or something.
I got to get back home soonish.
Yeah, we're going out to dinner, all of us. And so we're going out actually with our faith group.
Yep.
Bible study, whatever we want to call it, our faith group. So touch on that for like 5 minutes. So me and my wife joined this faith group this last session.
Yep.
And you were leading the men's section for
Yep.
us, and it's something you've done in the past. So where does that part of you come from?
I guess it's kind of growth and reflection in life. I was born and raised Catholic, private school, what have you. Had very little relationship with God when we were living in Italy. My wife and I went through some incredibly difficult times there, and then when we moved back to Minnesota, Alicia and I just looked at each other. We're like, what are we doing with our lives? Like, if there's not, like, what's the meaning behind kind of any of it? And I think everybody has those, whether it's just thoughts in your heads, you have those conversations with people, like, what's the meaning of it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, well, we don't really have that many friends here. So let's go see, kind of not just develop friendships in Minnesota because a lot of our college friends move away or what have you. We're just like, let's see what a small group does. Like, will it do anything? And I would say Alicia was a little more faith forward at the time, but definitely not kind of strong in faith. And I was, again, believe there was a God, but was just like, be a good person and you'll be fine. Whatever.
But I remember you saying you grew up reading.
Oh yeah,
the Bible and stuff.
Oh
like
yeah.
That. So I mean, it was always part of what you did, right? Your family.
I would say it was a part of my life, but it wasn't a part of my identity.
Right.
Right. Like I learned the prayers and I, read the Bible and I went to church 4 times a week and I did all that stuff.
4 times a week?
Yeah. It was Monday, Wednesday, Friday in school and then Sunday service with the family. And so we did all that. But again, it wasn't a part of like who I was. Like I knew treat people nice, right? Like you get that. And I think there's a lot of Christians out there that kind of lose that sight on that. Like you still have to treat people with grace. Like,
we just talked about this 2 sessions ago, which I didn't understand was a thing. So we talked about obviously, Christians believe a big reason or a big way to, I guess, make it to the kingdom of heaven someday is to have a personal relationship with God and Jesus. But then I can't remember. It's not Nick. Maybe it's Nick. One of the guys in our group talked about there's actually another part of it that like is about the good acts. Yeah. And like apparently you get better things maybe in heaven, like your driveway's bigger than the next one. But we talked about it and I was like, I didn't think that was still a thing. I thought it was like only the personal relationship, but apparently there's more to like the kind acts and treating people well and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's very much good works do not guarantee your spot in heaven, right? Only that relationship, that belief in God does that for you. However, it's kind of like if you do believe in God, you believe in Jesus, all of that belief is going to you're going to do good works because that's what a Christian should do, right? And so it's very much you don't need to, but it's kind of like you almost have to because of your relationship,
right?
Not to belabor that point, but yeah, it was very much a not, Christianity was part of my upbringing, but not really huge into my core. And then it was the small group just really got started. And eventually, I was just like, okay, this feels like there's so much more substance here.
Mm-hmm.
Like an hour and a half with these guys, growing in faith was just so much more everything than like even the best 3-hour happy hour with your
Mm-hmm.
best friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I don't want to say that it was empty, but it was just like there wasn't the depth there. There wasn't the joy that kind of derived from the small group. So yeah.
So is it safe to say when I first met you, you weren't as deeply rooted?
Yeah, not as I definitely wasn't as vocal.
Like, would you have led a small group back then?
I probably wouldn't have had the belief
Like
or confidence in myself to do that.
Oh,
right.
That's cool. I mean, you've came a long way in a short period of time.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's very much like the humility piece. It's kind of funny. Like you gain confidence, and so you're able to lead it, and somehow you're more humble. But it's just kind of like knowing that,
right?
Like Jesus was incredibly humble, and he was God, and so you're sitting here going, "Oh, I can do this not because it's me doing it, but because I'm going to ask for God in help in doing this, right? In leading this group, and hopefully leading these other men in their faith." So
yeah. Well, we miss having you. You should maybe move back. You can be more part of it.
I think it's better if everyone just moves down to South Carolina. But,
hey, we made one big step.
You did.
Made one big step.
Congratulations.
Yeah, me and Ash decided we're going to homeschool our kids. Their last day was this most recent Friday, I guess. And take it 1 year at a time, but it gives us some extra freedom.
That flexibility and freedom.
Gives us some freedom, man. But they're excited about it, and we think it's what's best to kind of hit our core values of how we feel they're going to need to be prepared to function in society and well, not just function, flourish.
Yep.
And also, it's just when the kids are in sports and the school, like, it's crazy. We were only getting like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
With our kids, like 30 minutes of like actual time where like, maybe we totally had like 2 hours, but an hour and a half of it is either like literally like watching TV before bed with them, which isn't quality time.
Yeah.
Or you're like shoving a snack or a meal down their throat as we're running out the door.
Brushing teeth, putting pajamas on, all that stuff that just chews up the time. Yeah.
So, I think they're at a good age at 8 and 10 where we don't have to like start over and like teach them everything from the beginning would be very hard. And the parents that do that, like, more power to you. That would be so hard. But now it's like they're pretty dang smart kids already. So it's just we're just gonna layer on the things that they need to know, but also things like with business and just how to run a household and just things like that school's never gonna teach them. So, but I'm going to pivot now to I'm going to fire off some questions at you.
Okay.
And we didn't prepare any of these. So hey, if you don't know the answer, like if it doesn't come to you, we'll just move on.
Okay.
But I think I like to ask certain questions regarding like your mindset on some things, but then also like just some fun questions about, our community, stuff like that. So what would you say is your like why? Like not in life, but mainly for like what gets you out of bed after you get kicked in the nuts a few times, you have a couple deals go south, whatever, right? But you stay focused on whatever your goal is for your business, for your family. Like, what is it that keeps you going to go find that next building, go find that next property, to continue changing your life? Like, what is it?
I think it's always just to do good. Like, whether it's do good within my family, whether it's to do good for those around me, whether it's to do good within a community, like I just want to do good. And
that's going to be I should get that on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Do good.
Yeah.
Gator B.
I'm telling you, it's meat and potatoes stupid. Like, you don't have to complicate
it. Doesn't have to be complicated.
Just do good. And saying that, I know everybody has a different version of what like good is. Mm-hmm. And so the secondary piece of that is like, if you ever have to give truth, whether it's hard truth or easy truth, giving it with grace, I think that's my do good, give truth with grace.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of the ethos of how I want to live my life. So if, I just wish that was more ingrained into not just Christians' lives, but everybody's lives. Like if you have to tell somebody, I think you're doing this wrong, right? How do you do it in such a way where it's like said with, they know you love them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They know, they can feel that. And so, do good, give truth with grace. So
Love it. Who is your mentor or here? Now I know Rafik, probably a good mentor, but like, who do you identify as like your hero?
Oh, geez.
I know we didn't prepare this one.
I'd say somebody that I really look up to is Steve Chaney with Chaney Carpet. Just in everything that he's a man of God. He's a man of his family. He's a man of business and beloved in the community. If you've never had a chance to meet him, like you're missing one of these singular, most incredible personalities and human beings that there is.
He's local in Minnesota?
Yeah. Chaney Carpet was his business. He ended up selling that last year. And just a tiny snippet of who he is. So he called me up one Friday, and I was working on a building, selling a building that I had a hard time, wasn't selling, right? I've been working on it for 5-6 months, whatever it was. It's his building. He's like, Brian, I've had the worst week. And I'm sitting here thinking like, he's going to fire me from this listing. Like I have this worst week and now I got to let you go and I got to have somebody else. Cause he and I had built kind of a pretty strong friendship. He calls me up and he's like, worst week I've had in a very long time. And, so I'm going to send somebody out to your house. I know you got a new baby coming. I'm going to send somebody out to your house. They're going to measure up your carpet and we're just going to recarpet your house. And I was like what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And he goes, a long time ago, somebody told me, and he didn't tell me who it was that told him, but he's like, whenever you're having just the worst day, doing something over the top good for somebody else, he's like, the worst just kind of melts away. He's like, so yeah, I'm just going to carpet your house because that's what I want to do. And I've had the worst week. And so somebody else is going to have their best week that they've had in a long time. That's like,
amazing.
It was just so unbelievably rare to have a human like that. Like that's his ethos is when he's having the worst time, make it his mission to give somebody else the best time.
That's incredible.
It was nuts. So yeah, Steve Chaney's probably.
That's a good one. I mean, I thought maybe you'd say me, but that's I'm just kidding. No, Steve Chaney, I'd love to meet him. Sounds amazing. Talk about like, okay, so you live this, what looks like a pretty amazing life. Like, you deserve it. You've worked very hard, but you're traveling a lot. You're raising a family. You're having lots of success in business, lots of success with friendships, all that stuff. Are there any negatives? Talk about it. Like, is there anything that was just like, this part kind of sucks about the life that I've built? Is there anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah. The biggest thing is like, as we, my wife and I, we grow in our faith and the closer you get to God, the further you kind of want to get like from earth and earth stuff. And so like you build this portfolio and you're like, well, why? And you're like, well, I finance their life. Well, why do we need to finance this life? Why can't we be? And so Alicia and I regularly have the conversation. I mean, it's not crazy, but it's just like, why don't we just sell everything? I'm like, why do you even need to sell it? Why don't you just give it away? Like, just give it kind of like, I don't need it. I don't want it. Yeah. Right. And so, the negatives, the downsides are, I don't want to say they're like, oh, it's easy to complain from that position or what have you. I don't know how to eloquently say it, but the downside being is the more stuff and things you do and the places you see and the buildings you acquire and all of that, it kind of like, it sort of gives you a thirst for more. And I'm like, that thirst for more is in the opposite direction of where I want to be. Like if I'm growing with Jesus, right? I don't want to thirst for more. I want to just say, give me this day our daily bread, right? Don't give me 6 months worth of bread. Just give me my daily bread.
Don't give me a $5 foot long.
Yeah.
I
just want the daily bread. So that conviction, we feel that pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And, it's scary, and everything that we do that's new, it's scary. So there's the stress that comes with that. And so managing that.
What's the secret to managing that?
Lean on your wife without killing her, and her the same for you, and learning how to do that. Like, rather than, two forces like clashing, it's very much like, I need to be your wall and you need to be mine. And you're never going to be like, some days I'm going to be a stronger rock for her to lean on than she will be for me. And there's some days where she is absolutely the stronger rock that I need to lean on, because it's never 50-50. It's like, sometimes I need 80% of my weight carried by you, and sometimes she's doing the same. So
it's funny you say that. We literally say the exact same thing. Like, we'll look at each other sometimes and be like, hey, I got like 10% in me today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just letting you know. I got barely anything. I'm going to need you to carry our asses today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And vice versa. And it's just like, that's the key, I think, is just being transparent and honest.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it was the corked gin bottle that you have that you feel so cool. Just how you manage your stress. Just pop that little cork.
Yeah. No.
You look cooler than everybody else, that's for sure.
Look like an idiot.
I will. There's no way to solve that for you.
Yeah.
All right. Let's do some lightning round fun type questions here. Let's see here. Let's start with an easy one. Favorite place to eat in the Blaine community?
Favorite place to eat in Blaine? Jawad Grill. I love their French fries. They're so
I've
good.
never been there, but I remember you telling me about it.
But if you're a super sauce person, they load it. So they load the gyro with sauce. So I always tell them, lighten it up. I don't need 20 extra pounds. But that's like the hidden gem, and I don't.
Is that the one that's like next to the gas station?
It's in like the worst spot.
Is it off of?
It's on Main.
Off of Main, but
Jefferson.
Almost Coon Rapids.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's like I think it's the Jefferson Light. Yeah, there's a gas station strip. Yeah, go there. The fries are sublime.
They have French fries?
Yes.
All right, I'm going there.
They're incredible.
Done. So, how did you land on a Mini Cooper? And what does it say on the back of your Mini Cooper again?
What's that?
What does it say on the back?
Clubman? Like, that's the Mini Cooper.
I'm a club man.
It's the dumbest car.
It's the dumbest car. I love it though. You're the only man driving that car around Blaine.
You
sometimes.
You can't think too highly of yourself and drive a Mini Cooper. Like, you can't take yourself too seriously.
But you were like dead set on it. It wasn't like but what?
Because
why?
they're tiny and quick, and I was used to driving an F-150, and I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. It takes forever to turn around. It takes forever to maneuver.
They don't park very well. The big pickups, we have one.
No.
If we're going somewhere where it's going to be packed, I'm like, we need to take my car.
Yeah.
Because I hate parking it.
Now imagine shrinking your car by another 3 feet one way and another 2 feet the other way. And Alicia hates it. So for the record out there, she despises the car.
Oh, we all make fun of you. Yeah. That's the fun part.
That's the beauty of it, is like, if you don't take yourself too seriously, like, give me a clown car. Yeah. I don't care.
It literally is a clown car. It's great. But
anyway.
Yeah, every time I see it, I'm just like, he's the club man. So good. Oh, man. God, what was I going to... I was going to say, a lot of people overcompensate for things.
Yeah.
You're just like, I'm going to undercompensate.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other direction.
I'm going to show you nothing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do you have any pet peeves that, one, in your personal life that just drive you crazy, but also I'm just curious, like in the commercial world, commercial real estate, is there a pet peeve of yours that like other agents do sometimes, or maybe the building owners will do?
No, in the commercial world, no.
No.
Generally it's that, like, give a lot of grace, because I know I'm going to need to ask for a lot of grace.
Yeah.
So I try not to, I try not to get too peeved about, too much of anything. Like when I specifically tell someone, hey, let me know if you need help, and then they never ask for help, and then they yell at me when something goes south, and I'm like, I like, that's kind of frustrating. And it hasn't happened that often, but you wouldn't really call that a peeve. It's more just like, this kind of came from nowhere.
What about in your household?
Household pet peeves, not anything like significant. I would say in my life, my biggest pet peeve is people who don't know how to zipper merge. Like,
thank you.
Just drive
till you can't anymore,
and then get over. Like, you're not an a-hole if you take the third lane that's going to be compressed into. You're actually helping people. Like, science, engineering, and everything has repeatedly said. The Traffic Association of America has said, please, for the love of all that is holy, drive until you have to get over. That's the best. And there's still people who will
block both lanes.
Block both lanes. I'm like, you are the problem. You're trying to be a hero and like a non-a-hole person, and you're just so far on the You're causing the traffic jam.
I know.
You're being the a-hole. Like,
it drives me absolutely crazy.
And they think they're being the hero. Like, that's the thing. It's like you think you're saving a person from jumping off the building, and you're the dude pushing them off the building.
If I worked like downtown and I was always stuck in traffic and I knew I was going to have to zipper merge like every day, I would literally have I'd make printout sheets in my car, and when somebody's doing that shit to me, I'd just put it on my window and just be like, read this, dude.
Yes.
Like, come on, man. Or like a QR code.
Yes.
Scan this. And then it's like, how to zipper merge. Oh my gosh, people. Yeah, please, for the love of God, stop. Stop blocking the other lane. Let's see here. What's the number one thing you miss from growing up in South Dakota?
The peace.
Peace.
Like, we lived
more
out
simplicity.
In the country. Yeah, peace, simplicity. I mean, I was a kid, so you didn't have all of the responsibility that comes with being an adult, but it was just quiet, simple, easy, safe. Like, the peace of mind of being out there. And as a kid, sometimes I was like, I'm super bored and whatever, and that's part of what drove me to the cities. But yeah, when I go back and hang out at my mom's place out in the country, it's just like sit out on the deck and just close your eyes and take in the nothingness. That's definitely it. This
is a two-parter. So you guys have traveled many different places. Okay, and I've had many conversations with you where you have been like, I'm not sure, where we're going to move to next or what we're going to, you're always thinking about other places. So my two-part question is, let's make it 3 parts. Where is the best place you've ever been to? Like your favorite spot. Okay. Where's a place that you have to go? Like it's on your bucket list that you haven't been to yet? And out of all the places in the world, how and why did you decide to stay in Blaine, initially, and start a family? What drew you to the Blaine area? So let's start with the first one.
Favorite place I'll make this one a brief 2-part. The favorite place that I ever been, my favorite memory of being somewhere new was in Sardinia with my wife. We had just gotten legally married, came back to the States, and then went back to Italy when we were stationed there. We went to Sardinia, showed up, didn't have a rental car. Some dude rented me his motorcycle, his friend's motorcycle. I gave him €50, and he's just like, here, you can use it for 3 days. So that was kind of serendipitous. And then we took this motorcycle and drove along the Sardinian coast for an hour. It was 50 degrees, so it was pretty cold. But you're weaving in and out of the cliffside on the motorcycle, and full moon over the water reflecting. And then for whatever reason, the island of Sardinia there was nobody there. So when we woke up in the morning, the hotel, we were the only guests in the hotel. We went to the beach. There wasn't a single person. I mean, you're talking miles of golden sand beach, clear water.
I would have been a little worried. Is there some hurricane?
I mean, it was
something?
It was strange, but just surreal.
Yeah.
We drove for an hour, didn't see a car on the road.
Wow.
Nothing. And so we spent 3 or 4 days. I can't remember if it was 4 days and 3 nights or 3 days and 2 nights. I think it was 3 and 2 there, and just didn't encounter a soul. It was like we had paradise to ourselves
yourself,
for our
yeah.
honeymoon. Like that was so
Sardinia,
yeah.
that's in Italy.
It's an island off the coast of Italy.
Okay.
Yeah. And then favorite place that we've like been as far as like just the sheer incredibleness of it is South Island, New Zealand. We took the family there beginning of 2019, and it's just it's everything on the island. Huge snow-capped mountains, beautiful golden beaches, Milford Sound where the mountains just drop right into the ocean. The plains, the prairies. South Island, New Zealand, number one place on the planet, like by a mile. And people are super kind there. It's quiet.
Do they have accents?
Yeah.
Do they sound Australian?
It's different than Australia. Like an American who doesn't, they kind of know the Australian, they think it sounds, but if you listen to an Australian person and, New Zealander or Kiwi talk, you definitely notice the differences.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like Minnesota and Wisconsin.
Yeah.
People who don't know the difference, like they think they all sound the same. But if you know, you're like, no, those are like wildly different accents.
Well, yeah, usually those Wisconsinites are drunk, so it's easy to spot them.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah, usually just slurring their words.
And then
place you want to go.
Chiang Mai, Thailand. So one of my best friends, he's a pilot in the Air Force, been 100, whatever countries there are on the planet, he's been like 90-some% of them. And he said Chiang Mai, Thailand was his favorite place, I think, because of the peace, serenity, the beauty, all of that. So that is definitely going to be gotten to. Lord willing, I live long enough to see it. But yeah, that's number one for me. And then, Blaine. So my wife's family's from kind of Blaine, Ham Lake, Coon Rapids, Andover. So that brought us back as we just had one kid at the time. She was young. We had lived in Italy and Florida, so been away for 5 years, wanted to be around family as we were raising our kids. And and then going to school at St. Thomas, I was like familiar with the cities, and I liked the cities, and then didn't want to go back to Sioux Falls area. And so, it was just time to, come home and hang out with family for a little bit and see them. And
it's always family that keeps us here.
Yeah, and so now we're trying to be like, family, come to us,
Come
to South Carolina, because you'll just stay.
Yeah,
like visit and then just stay.
I definitely want to come when it wasn't 100 degrees and humid. You know what I mean?
I mean, but even that was enjoyable.
You are a sick human being. You love it. No. You love just a roast.
Yeah. Well, I do, but that wasn't.
I wake up and I look outside and I was sweating and I'm like,
it's okay.
This isn't probably for me, but right now would absolutely be for me in the middle of November.
Like, just go get an iced tea or something.
I was a lot more active. I'll say that, when you're there. Okay, a few more questions. I know you got a jet.
Yeah.
Really, give us the 1-minute version of how you picked up your wife, like how you got her.
She picked me. We were Brothers Bar. We were meeting some friends. I didn't know Alicia, didn't know, she was going to be there, but myself and two of my guy friends were going to go meet a girl that we knew and two of her friends. And so we thought we'd just hang out. And I walked down the stairs of Brothers Bar in downtown Minneapolis, and it was
a great place.
Yeah, straight out of Titanic.
Yep.
Lady at the bottom of the stairs, she's looking up. I'm looking down, and she bought me my first drink. And 5 minutes after we got there, we left the other 4 people that we were with. Didn't see them again the rest of the night, and just like danced and hung out. And we really, the funny thing is, she bought me my first drink there. And then I think we only got one more drink the rest of the night from like 10 o'clock to 2. So we were not, maybe 2 drinks.
Yeah, you weren't partying. You were involved.
I was just like
laser focused.
This is, I think I'm going to marry her kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she didn't know that about me. Like she didn't feel the same way as immediately. But yeah, it was like 45 minutes into meeting, I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to ask this girl to marry me. So,
but the end of the story is what's amazing with the limo.
Oh yeah.
So wasn't it you were like, you need to let me take you on another date. And she's like, no.
Yeah.
And then you were like, all right, here's the deal. If someone picks me up or if I leave here in a limo.
Yes. I was like, I want to go on a date with you. And so I had this deal in college where I figured it out that, 3 taxis, and all of our friends who took 3 taxis, the cost was like $100 or whatever it was. And it was some amount. And I had a limo driver that I figured out. He's like, no, I'll take you $70 one way, right, to get to Minneapolis, and then $70 back. So it was basically 25 minutes in a limo,
Yeah.
$70. And so I organized it, lined it up, and then I said, all right, everybody, give me the I don't know what it was, $10 or $15 that you were going to pay for a taxi, and we can all go together in the limo. And the caveat was I basically got 20 extra dollars. So after paying him and then giving him a $20 tip, I had like 20 extra bucks that I kept for myself to get drinks for the night.
Yep.
So
you were working on a rate of return already, right there.
And so because I did that, and they were all happy because they actually gave me, it was like $2 less than what they would have paid in the taxi. And so, yeah, every time we went downtown, we went down in a limo, got dropped right at the front door, got let into every place we ever wanted to go because they were like, they showed up in a limo. Yeah. And then, at 2 a.m., I always had a limo. And so, like, if you didn't ride with me back, then you had to pay for a different taxi. So, like, you had to be with me to get the limo back. But, yeah, so I was like, I told her, I was like, she didn't want, not that she didn't want to go on a second date with me, but that was how I was like, okay, if there is a limo waiting for me outside this bar at 2 a.m., I'm not going to call anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like I won't make any secret arrangements or anything because I had already texted Loyan, this is where I'm going to be, pick me up at 2. And so I was like, if there is a limo waiting for me at 2 in the morning, you'll go on a second date with me. And I was like, just please. And she is just like, who is this arrogant prick that like, but she was intrigued. Yeah. She was also intrigued.
She was into it.
Yeah. And then sure enough, 2 a.m. hit, bar closed, go outside. I say, hey, Loyan, I get in the limo. And I was just like,
did you go from the moonroof and wave?
No, I was through the door that was still open or whatever. I was like, I would like a second date. And then she came over and she's like, here's my number. It's Alicia with a Y.
Right, because she told you her name was
Shaniqua.
Yeah.
So, which
so good.
So dumb. But anyway,
I love it.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I had a limo, was because I was just like figured out is cheaper.
Yeah.
So it was because I was super poor that I was able to ride downtown in a limo.
The ultimate flex though, when Shaniqua was there.
Yeah.
Well, the last thing I guess that I think it's fun for people to know about you is so I think when all of us are sitting around like scrolling social media, we're on TikTok, we're just looking at stupid videos and stuff. You are like a giant nerd and will be sending me the most ridiculous articles sometimes about like gravity or like the universe or some shit. Yeah, so like when you're in your downtime on your phone, what is it that you're searching for and looking at?
It's not, so it's generally like I'll catch up on sports or whatever.
Yeah.
The local sports stuff. But it's more of like just anything that's even remotely intriguing.
What's your like go-to like website or like thing to visit?
There isn't one. There definitely isn't.
Like how do you find this stuff?
Generally, it just populates off of stuff that I've read before.
Yeah.
So if I'll read an article on black holes and then artificial intelligence and then like the rate of growth for the different types of grass and then like just random stuff or like life hacks that most people don't know about. So it's just weird, obscure articles. Mm-hmm. And whether I do anything with the knowledge or not, it's just the universe is so big. It's kind of fun to like start being able to tie things together. Mm-hmm. So the Fibonacci like sequence or spiral or whatever, that one's like you can get so many articles on like completely different topics just by like Googling that.
I know. And I call you a nerd, but it's funny. Yeah. Like it is interesting. Whenever you send them to me, I'm just like, man, Brian's going down just this weird path, but I'm intrigued. Let's get into it.
What do we have here?
And actually, you did send me if anybody's still watching or listening to this, you did send me one time an article about like what was it? It was like the 5 things about like money or wealth or something. Remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What is that called? Do you remember?
Gosh, what is the title of that article? It's not the 5 kinds of wealth. Well, and there's a couple on wealth that I sent. One was talking about what is infinite wealth, and that is essentially you get more passive income than you do for expenses. So if you keep your expenses at only $1,000 a month and you have $1,500 of passive income, you're infinitely wealthy. You can live forever.
It was the other one,
This
I
one-
think. It was
yeah.
like it was the one that wasn't just money focused. It was like wealth in your relationships, wealth in.
Gosh, yes. What was that article title? I cannot.
I don't remember what
yes.
it was.
Yes.
I'll try to get the name from Brian and post it when I post it online. But that, like, if you guys do anything from any of this,
That's
like,
the
just go and
takeaway.
read that.
Yeah.
That was really cool when you shared that with me. I was like,
Yep.
that puts a lot of good things in perspective. So, yeah, just an amazing human being you are.
Yeah,
So,
thank you. You as well.
thank you for taking time out of. I know you got a bunch of things going on as you're home
Yep.
for only a few short days, but I appreciate it. Looking forward to dinner.
Yeah.
And yeah, just know that I love you,
Yeah.
and
love you too, brother.
just love having you in my life.
Yeah.
Me and Ashley are very grateful for you guys. So
Yeah.
maybe one day we'll be neighbors again. But
Sooner than you think.
yeah, but again, everybody, this is Brian Scholten. Reach out anytime for anything. We're always here to help with anything that we just talked about, not just business
Yeah.
stuff. But with that being said, if anybody else that's watching or listening knows of anyone else that might be a good fit for the Obvious Choice podcast, please reach out. I love to spotlight people's businesses or just cool things they have going on in their life in our community. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I know you're going to see this after Thanksgiving, but I hope your Thanksgiving was amazing. And watch for us watch for me on the next Obvious Choice podcast. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.